Record. Hello, everyone. I'm Leslie Cornwell, certified nurse midwife with Midwifery Business Consultation. I have Sara Kindred here. She is a midwife with a PhD in Suturing and many others I just found out recently. She's one of the original founders of GynZone, which is an online and in-person suturing education platform. So thank you so much for being here today, Sara.
Thank you for letting me join you. I'm delighted to present to an American audience.
Yeah, I think I learned about GynZone 2 months ago, and all I kept thinking, just like a pregnant woman, you have 3 babies and you're like, I wish I'd have known about midwives. I wish I'd have known about home birth. Like after I learned and I dove into GynZone, I was like, why didn't I know about this 10 years ago when you guys started? So that's made me very passionate. How do we get this education out to the masses and know your amazing services exist? So Sara, if you want to tell about your background and why you created GynZone.
I would love to. So I'm founded in Denmark. I'm Danish by birth, so English is my second language. I do apologize if I make any mistakes. I'll do my best. I can also speak German, but I think we would prefer English in this audience.
Yeah.
I was trained as a midwife 25 years ago, and I had amazing instructors who taught me to be curious on whether we're doing the right thing when we're doing stitches to the labia or to the perineum, and which kind of suture material should we use. And suddenly I found myself in a research line of career progressing, so that I had the opportunity to do a PhD, which is a 3-year top on to the midwifery education and also a master's degree in women's health. So I've always combined clinical work, and I enjoy births, I enjoy night shift, I enjoy working in the weekends, but I love to be curious. And that is how we founded GynZone also, is can we teach midwifery students and midwives to suture and to love the skills of suturing? So GynZone is a teaching program. It's an online platform where you can learn how to suture minor and major perineal trauma. But it is also a platform where we share experiences on when we are in doubt. What do you do if you're in doubt about the diagnosis? What do you do if the pain relief is not enough? So we can also discuss and engage in clinical situations. We do webinars where we have experts joining us, and we do tutorials where we do the current evidence on labia repair, for example.
Well, I was picking on Katrina on another video. It's in the US, we have very few that are memberships and real-time and continual platforms. It's more envisioned as a class. You take it, you get your continuing education, you take your course, and then you don't look at it very often. And so like up-to-date and evidence-based birth are more the platforms I want to affiliate this with in the United States. And we talked in other videos, the benefits of having real-time and having a membership to new evidence, to refreshers, to just real time. If you're trying to implement something new and change in your area, it's easy to show. Like we pull up the research, we pull up the data, let's pull up a video together and I'll look at it. So I'm very excited for what you do. How did you feel like I just needed to start a business, or did you do the research and you figured out this is the best way to get it out to people?
I think our business was founded by coincidence. So actually we would love to do a web page where you could see these materials, but soon we realized that you need a continuous influx of money to be able to continuously have an outflux of knowledge and translation. So when we have a German audience who wishes this in German, we need to pay the translator and the graphic people and the video recording people for doing all what they do. So we needed to have some kind of basic economy to be sustainable in our huge wish to do updates all the time. Right. And I travel all over Scandinavia and do workshops for 100 days a year. I'm abroad doing workshops with midwives and obstetricians. And during those workshops, I can teach some technical skills, but I'm very often also inspired by midwives from Sweden saying, hey, we do pain management by applying a pudendal block through the skin instead of through the vagina. And say, whoops, why was I never taught? And it seems that we have knowledge all over the world that we never taught each other because we think it's so intuitive. I was taught this in my textbook, so I thought everybody knew. But we have to share knowledge and passion and technical skills. So that is all.
Well, there's so much with birth that's cultural, and we don't give it. We think, well, this is the safest, and that's your local research, and that's like getting the worldwide access so we can learn from each other, the birth cultures, the procedure cultures, the knowledge. Like, I've been fascinated in the United States. I've practiced in 5-6 different states in the United States, and it's so drastically different. But the key thing is everybody thinks they're doing it the best way, and like, how can we get this shift of worldwide knowledge to learn from each other, like these skills and these styles? And
and I've been very fortunate to work in a work environment where midwives and doctors respect each other, and also respect that we have different opinions about things. So some of the main supervisors of my research, they were medical doctors, and they were teaching me how to do randomized trials and look at different outcomes. But I soon also realized that there are other outcomes than pain and pain management, or whether the wound has healed. Women also suffer big trauma from having a tear that was not explained to them. So they thought it was a major tear, and the midwife was looking strange as she sutured, or she was whispering to the student. They might be whispering about Christmas presents for the children, but the woman does not know, or the birthing person does not know. So we have to take enormously care to be emotionally well when we do the suturing, and to empathize to the woman that she will be fine after birth again. So sometimes it's not evidence-based, but I would always recommend that we touch a woman on her shoulder after we've done the repair and explain face-to-face and having eye contact. I did my best. You have a beautiful body. You will heal fine. Because then she can relax and say, okay, I will heal fine. Instead of us rushing out and saying, I hope it will be fine. Come back if it isn't. So we also need communication skills, as we are talking about very delicate matters as female genital is. I mean, if males were having babies with their penis and the penis fell off and we put it back on, I think he would have some kind of explanation and evidence rehabilitation program.
Yeah, it's such an intimate area, and like being fully present, I think as newer clinicians, you're so task oriented. And so we're asking you, talk to this lady, pay attention to what the nurse is saying. Oh, you're also watching the baby over there, and now she's starting to bleed. Like, you have so much filtering. I think that's the challenge. When I train midwifery students, I say those 10 to 20 minutes after the baby comes out, you have so much knowledge and skills you have to cram into a short amount of time, plus adding a suturing. And I think part of what was fascinating from watching the videos, in our society, it's fast paced, it's quick, the insurance pays on quantity. We're trying to get everything done, versus there may be situations that the suturing doesn't have to be done right away. Those little things of just timing, not just the procedure itself. So I think just getting people to look bigger and really critically evaluating suturing, the process, the education, the quality measures that you are putting people on the bar of expectation is just amazing.
Yeah. And what I enjoy most in my work in the clinical field is that I work with midwives who are also curious. So that's part of working in a university hospital. That is that we do trials. So if we are in doubt whether we should do interventions or not, we will randomize women who wish to participate in these trials. And then we get a higher level of knowledge, instead of just saying, I did it for 20 years, it works fine. But maybe you did wrong for 20 years and you never evaluated. And that is how we were learning a huge amount of new things as we started screening all suturing results 2 days after birth. So we will offer birthing women, birthing persons, that we can evaluate the perineum 2 days after birth, as we do other screening tests. We do a hearing test for the baby, and we evaluate whether breastfeeding is fine, and we look at jaundice, and we take blood samples. And at that time point, we have an entire hour for the family, and we also ask if we should evaluate the wound healing. And we learned a lot. We learned that we needed to place in more stitches on the labia so it didn't tear up again 2 days after birth. We bought new suture materials in the hospital in order to save money, and we found out it didn't actually fulfill our purpose. It was dissolved within 2 days, and that is too quickly for a suture line to be absorbed. So we had to change back to different sutures again. So by evaluating your practice, you can learn a lot, and it doesn't cost much money to change practices.
Yeah, well, it's the being humbling, and I think we're good at it as clinicians. We just get busy, and it's easier to be on habit and autopilot. And our current standards, is particularly in the United States, is if it looks like it's well approximated, it looks almost back to normal on a surgical standard, that's a good repair. Like, it's not how was she feeling afterwards? Is she able to have sex 8 weeks later? Like, is she having urinary incontinence? That's not part of the quality measures currently in the United States of how was that repair. So I think it's getting people to look bigger, really understanding the complications of not understanding and thoroughly using the best equipment, the best training, the best anatomy understanding is the way we're really going to be able to pave changes in the United States.
Sure. We also had that experience in Denmark because midwives were suturing the ladies and we didn't see them afterwards. So nobody was evaluating whether the surgical result was excellent or poor. And in cesarean sections, you see very clearly if the surgical result is poor, her bowels are outside her stomach and she will come back and say, this is not looking very normal. And we will try to restore that at a certain time point within the first few weeks. Whereas if the sutures became undone in the perineum, nobody would know. Or maybe she would talk to a family practitioner and he or she would say, I don't know what to do, so we will leave it until you've had your children. But some of us are 46 or 49 before we think, oh, I might not have more children. And then we waited for 30 years to have this perineal repair done if it was insufficient the first time. And I think we changed this scene and paradigm in Denmark, saying you should be satisfied with your perineum and how your vulva works and your continence, even between births and especially after births. And we hope that many of us have 70 years ahead of us as we have our first baby at 20 or 25. We want to have a normal life for that time period. So we've heightened standards among midwives and obstetricians in perineal care.
Yeah, and it's interesting because it's a cultural shift because there's so much emphasis. There's childbirth education classes, there's birth books, there's birth stories, it's birth, birth, birth. But as soon as the baby comes out, like as a culture, we just shift. Like a lot of our ladies go back to work next week. They just like, it's just a fast-paced, crazy environment here. And the postpartum period, that healing process, the potential trauma, the things we don't do nearly, we ask so many thousands of questions prenatally, but at postpartum visits, we ask a fraction of it. So how do we get that full scope empowerment and education and advocacy in place? So I think this is a great stepping stone, what you've created, Sara. I would just love to end, like, what were the biggest hurdles of implementing something new? So especially if midwives are like, I love this and I want to start implementing it in my local hospital or my midwifery practice, like what is the first step in changing a culture?
For GynZone money and the dynamics of that you have to pay for continuous medical education, that was a barrier. Many hospitals said, well, why can't you come and have a bottle of wine and then you can do the talk for 2 hours and teach everybody how to suture and you bring your own stuff and we don't pay you any money. And I said, I can do this as I'm a PhD student and I do research on the effect of workshops. But when I'm not doing research anymore, I also need a salary. So finding out a way to do business with publicly funded institutions was highly challenging as we started out this business, because in a Scandinavian setting, all our educations are paid by public funding. Health insurance is paid by the public funding. So everybody is used to not having money between us. We don't interact with money. We interact with merits of, well, I like you, so I can invite you to come to the hospital. So that was a huge challenge for the business side of it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I think that's amazing. Thank you so much, Sara. What's a good way they can connect with you, learn more about GynZone?
Well, everybody can sign up for a free trial for 7 days and look at all the teaching materials. We also host webinars and that you can join. It's called mygynzone.com and you can join anytime you want to. If you like what you see and you like to support us, you can even create an individual membership. It will cost you about $10 per month. So you can sign up when you need it, and when you don't need it, you just unsign and say, oh, I might be back in half a year. Welcome.
Yeah, it's very, very affordable. And I can't stress enough, like, I've been blessed the last 2 months to dive in, and all I kept thinking is, I wish I would have had this 10 years ago. And the caliber, I mean, there's 1,000 videos, there's weekly updates, there's so much in here. You need a membership just to like slowly absorb everything that's present and have real-time reference. So thank you for creating this wonderful platform, Sara.
Thank you for letting me talk to you.